wanted my brand to be like, I asked myself a lot of different questions about like, you know, what has inspired me, what has led me to be who I am today, and like what cultural moments really resonate with me. And one of the cultural moments that I feel resonates with me and a lot of people is the movie Belly, right? So many people are inspired by the movie Belly. It is such a great piece of cinematography. It is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. I mean, I like other stuff like Casino. That's one of my top ones. Just the way it looks, you know, it's just such a vibe. But Belly was really the first time when I watched that movie, and it was the first time that I really saw, like, even though it was like negative stuff going on in the movie, the way the aesthetic of the movie, the colors, the wardrobe, the way everybody was fly, the music. Like, I always love hip hop. Obviously, Nas was in there. That's my favorite rapper. Basically, when I was younger, like, you know, and I'm looking at it, I'm watching hip hop and I'm watching music videos, like all those types of things, they like inspire my point of view. So, you know, most of the music videos, you and Ambrose was doing the styling and the costume design. And then when Belly dropped, you know, and I saw like, man, like, okay, it's this woman who is, you know, doing her thing, who did all the costume design. And that's when I really knew, like, oh, okay, so like somebody like me could be like that, like be a stylist. I never really thought about like being a stylist, honestly, until I seen the movie Belly. That was like pretty much what did it. Then also the fact that, like, you know, before there wasn't like a high representation on dark skinned girls. Like, you know, I mean, brown skinned girls, like we were kind of like, we were represented, but like, you know, it was like a little bit of colorism going on within our community. And I think with Keisha specifically, that character was the first time like I saw myself in a character as far as just like aesthetics, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, how Nas like, Keisha was a bad bitch, you know, big tits, da 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 da. Saying Keisha actually had the Chinese bang in one scene. Actually, she had the Chinese bang over in most of the scenes. But I'm saying Keisha basically was that girl. You know what I'm saying? She was fly. She was sexy. Only thing is, like, as I've gotten older and I look back at that movie and I look at all the women in the movie, I noticed that, like, we don't know anything about these women in the movie, right? So it was hard for me, like, oh, do I really want to, like, do a content piece inspired by a movie that did not represent women like me at all? Like, didn't, like, from aesthetic standpoint, yes, like fly women, but it didn't represent the type of woman I am as far as like inside, like being ambitious, having my own dreams and hopes, and having my own idea of what I want to do with my life. Like, I realized for the first time, like, last year, that like Belly really not a movie that should be now it's cool. It is in my top 10 for the aesthetic and the way it looks, but for the principle behind the movie, I think that maybe there could have been more when it came to like representation about like me and women in general, right? You know, we had these 3 characters in the movie. We had Keisha, we had T, and we had Kiana. And all 3 of them, all they did was talk about these men in this movie, right? Like, as I went back and looked at it, I was like, I don't know nothing about these girls. Like, all I know is they kept telling these men they love them, and they was like these down ass bitches, you know what I'm saying? But they was not. We don't know nothing about them, like nothing, like what, like we don't know what they really was into, what they like to do. We don't know like what they dreamt about doing. I mean, one time I think T-Boss mentioned that they should start a business. But like, she didn't elaborate on that. She didn't, you know, when he was ready to pack up and just go to Africa, she just rolling with him. You know, she basically was the mother. So you got the mother, you got the young naive girl that's just down with whatever, moldable, and then you got like the prize, which is Keisha, based on the way she looked, you know. And everything is just like very surface level. So I just would have liked to have seen that dive a bit deeper. So I just specifically, when it comes to the scene that I chose the scene where Keisha and T linked up. For what was crazy was they linked up for the first time. But these men, they been knew each other. And they linked up for the first time to talk about, because Keisha felt the way about what she was going through with her man. And they linked up, and as soon as the scene opened up, you see Keisha talking about, man, she saw a piece of furniture or something while they was out shopping, but Tommy wouldn't like it. Tommy probably wouldn't like it. Like, what about what Keisha like? You know what I'm saying? Walking down the street talking about the niggas. That's they walking down the street. They ain't talking about, hey girl, so glad to finally, you know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe we could assume that they talked about that before, but I'm saying the whole, what if when niggas walking down the street, they's talking about like, man, I really been thinking about starting this business, or I've been thinking about going back to school, or I've been thinking about like designing some clothes, or I've been thinking about like anything. Like they ain't talking about the baby, they ain't talking about the baby T got, they ain't talking about none of that. So I just feel like honestly it was a missed opportunity. As amazing, like I said, it's one of my favorite work of art, body of work from Hype Williams, and he's literally one of my favorite directors for obviously music videos, which is another reason I got into music, helping make music videos as well. But so this is why we created this scene. So basically, you know, these two girls represent like what if they walked down the street and talked about something else, and yeah, that's pretty much the premise of that video. So they walking down the street, they like, man, they just talk about girl stuff like shopping, and then the girl says, you know, I might just start my own brand. And the other girl supporting her, you know, being a supportive friend. Yeah, girl, #1 customer right here, you know. So I wrote the script. I wrote the script with the director. And then the crazy thing is when we were going over the script and we were creating the actual script, and I was telling the director why I chose this scene and how I felt about it, and it just made me feel away. He was telling me, like, this is a real thing. He's like, oh, that's the Bechdel theory. You basically telling me it didn't pass the Bechdel test. And I'm like, the Bechdel test? So when he told me about that, I just went and did the research to see, like, what that was. And it's crazy because the Bechdel test is a real thing where it's, like, it's a simple way to, like, evaluate female representation in film. And the main premise of it is like it has to have at least 2 women, and they have to talk about something other than a man in the body of work or whatever. And so, yeah, this failed the Bechdel test. My favorite movie, one of my top all-time favorite movies, failed the Bechdel test, and so many other movies. The percentage of movies that failed the Bechdel test is actually kind of crazy. Like when I really like got the information, I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like the imagery and the things that we're shown just as women, sometimes we don't realize like the messaging behind it. Like it's just kind of like, damn, this whole thing is just about these guys, and like, you know, the only thing we are as women sometimes in these films are just like accessories to the man. And honestly, I can get into that about how I feel about that in life as well. But, you know, we gonna stick on the topic. In the movie, you know, it failed the Bechdel test. They don't talk about nothing at all in that movie other than the man in the movie. Not one time. And so, you know, that just blew my mind. And so I just chose to just kind of like imagine, you know, if Keisha is me, you know, what would Keisha have been saying to her friend in that moment? Like, what would they have been walking down the street talking about? And so that was kind of my approach to it. You know, at the time, these amazing girls from my city, they represented the women in the movie that I wanted to kind of take an opportunity to rewrite the story. And yeah, so that's my, you know, I know a lot of people have done content inspired by Belly, and I just think it's time to like kind of step up and have a women's POV on a lot of things. Like it's the perfect time for women to have a point of view that is very public, and that's my point of view about that. As much as I love that movie, you know, it just has some missed opportunities, and so I chose to try to like highlight that and be inspired by that body of work. Thank you so much to June Ambrose for inspiring me and my career. I used to actually call myself the June Ambrose of Chicago, which is crazy. Like for the longest in my bio, I was like, oh, I'm the June Ambrose of Chicago. But actually, I didn't even start calling myself that first. Other people was calling me that. Other people were like, you like the June Ambrose of Chicago. And I was like, I never liked being compared to other people. So at first I was like, I ain't the June Ambrose of Chicago. Like, I'm the Brandy of Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So, but then I started being like, okay, that's really a compliment because June Ambrose, GOAT. You know what I'm saying? GOAT, amazing woman. I hope to be where she is, you know, at her point in her career 10 years from now. You know, I I look up to her, and she definitely helped pave the way for someone like me and the people that are coming up under me. And yeah, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. So Belly.